Hey everyone, my name is Shauna Davis. I am the host of this podcast, and I want to welcome you to the very first issue of Living in This Space. Real talk, because hey, we are all just living in this space we call life, right? Sometimes it's messy, sometimes it's really hard, and sometimes it's the most joyous thing we could ever experience. And I want you to have a space where the conversation is real, honest, sometimes hard, and other times just fun. I really hope we can spend this time together, validating, sharing, and experiencing all the feels together with whatever topic is on the agenda for the day. So I want to spend some time today on this first episode telling you a little bit about myself and how I came to this place of wanting to share this time together with you. Last year, I was at a business event, and on Saturday, I talked to a panel of amazing women about their businesses. I was the host and asked them questions and dug deep into some of their answers. Later that day, several friends told me I needed to start a podcast. They said, "You have a gift of interviewing people and actually have a lot to share personally." Wow. Can I just share with you that I was incredibly flattered and humbled by these sweet friends? I mean, for them to even suggest that I had value in this arena was so encouraging. I've had the desire to share my story and talk to others about theirs for a long time, but I didn't know what arena I could do that in. And I never even thought about doing a podcast. So on the drive home that Sunday, I started dreaming. I kicked around podcast names. I searched for platforms. I looked for information on creating a podcast. I tell you, I had absolutely no clue where to begin, but I was starting to get excited about the idea. And then you might guess what happened next. The more I dreamed, the more fear set in, the more self-doubt crept in, and the more insecurities started popping up that stopped me dead in my tracks. All of these things, fear, self-doubt, insecurity, they stopped me for 5 months before today. You know, those are some pretty big feelings that can just totally steal your dreams like that. They're feelings that have held so many people back from realizing their goals and dreams. Well, this past Wednesday, I hopped on a Zoom with a sweet friend, and we talked about her experience starting her own podcast. She challenged me at the end of the Zoom to put my first episode out by Friday. That's today. So I have gone through this so many times today. I've made so many mistakes. I've done several that I didn't even have my microphone on. And I think this is my last attempt tonight. And I'm going to leave this here with you, and hopefully you will find some measure of encouragement. So I'm sitting here tonight, 5 months later, after that first word of encouragement to start this podcast, on the Friday that I was challenged to start by, finally pulling the trigger. I have a tummy full of butterflies, a lot of self-doubt, and honestly, I'm a tad nervous to share my life with you. But also, deep within, there's a smidge of excitement. So here we go. Let's just dive right in. I was raised by a single mom from the age of 8 years old when my parents separated. We had a measure of dysfunction in our family. And I think living in that creates confusion for kids. So I really struggled as a child to understand what was going on in my world. My brother, who was 8 years older, walked a very troubled life and went to prison when I was somewhere around 5th grade. So every Sunday for 3.5 years, without missing a beat, My mom and I traveled to the Sunday visits at whatever prison he was in at the time. I've come to realize that when we look back on our lives, most of us can probably identify some pivotal moments that we feel shaped us. Well, these years are some of the formative years of my life that I can look back on and realize had an impact on who I would grow up to be. I loved my parents, and my daddy, like a lot of little girls, was my hero for most of my life. I only got to see him several times a year, and sometimes on the summers. But in my eyes and childlike mind, he could do no wrong, even though there were mountains of abandonment issues going on in my young heart. Later, as an adult, I would come to realize that both my parents had grown up with deep issues of pain, trauma, and abandonment. I think sometimes we can't see the pain in our parents' lives or know what they may have gone through as children. At some point, after hearing stories as an adult, grace stepped into my heart, and I learned to forgive and understand why our lives had taken the twists and turns that we had lived. As a young teen, I was very rebellious. I was always looking for a way to fit in, to be accepted, and to have connection. I dropped out of high school just into my junior year. I thought at 17, I had all the answers. I mean, really? Did y'all just hear what I said? I thought at 17, I had all the answers. Oh, I gave my poor mama so much grief. Something I'm not proud of as an adult, but I've forgiven myself for it, and I know that she did as well. The world of drugs and alcohol became a place I could easily fit in as a teenager. And for me, this was an empowering place to land after some really tough years in a private Catholic school setting. Looking back and working through my past with my counselor, I can see so many times when I know the hand of God was on me. It's quite an awakening when you realize just how close you've come so many times to danger, either in a situation or with a person who you know would have hurt you had you just not taken a step back in that very moment. I've had a few moments of realization looking back that brought a cold shiver of knowing, a knowing in my heart that I would probably not be here today if I had gotten into that car or stepped into that room. Yes, I know that my God has had his hand on me. And thankfully, I listened to that small voice of prompting. In my mid-20s, I stepped away from the drugs, a lifestyle I no longer wanted to be a part of. I radically changed my life with that one decision for the better. Today, I am a wife of 32 years, and as with most any marriage, these 32 years have been a roller coaster of experiences and emotions. We've experienced painful moments, we've shared good times and bad, and have grown through some of the toughest seasons to where we are today. Some of you can deeply relate to this, and I really hope in later talks that we can dig in to what it's like to work through these tough seasons, how it is to stay safe and keep healthy boundaries in place in a marriage and relationships. I'm also a mom of two amazing adult children who I am so very proud of. I completely lost my identity when I threw all of me and who I was into raising my beautiful daughter and son. But I wouldn't take anything in the world for the years when I was their everything. But then what happens? They start to grow up, right? How many of you can relate to that feeling of loss when they start to explore their independence and they no longer need us for everything? Oh, mamas out there, that is so hard. I know for some of you, listening to this is a tremendous area of pain. You may not have been able to have your own children, or you may have tragically lost yours. I have several friends who have tragically lost their children far too young. In this space, I hope that we'll be able to explore all of these areas of your joy, your pain, your sadness. On later episodes, I hope that we can really dig in to some of the things that we experience as moms. I'm also an entrepreneur by nature. I've always had my hand in some kind of a project. There's so much satisfaction in working with your hands to create something that other people find value in. And while I've worked a lot of different jobs over the years, and let me say, I have worked a lot of different jobs. It's kind of a running joke in my family. It seems my whole life I've been looking for something to fulfill the entrepreneurial side of me. That something has usually taken me to a place where I've jumped in with reckless abandon and have created something that I could market to others. Now, while I have always loved what I created and that creative process, boredom would quickly set in and I would find a way to move on to another project. I've been doing a lot of thinking about this one. Can I be transparent with you for a minute? I think now that I'm reflecting back, it really wasn't boredom, but a lack of self-worth and a small voice in my head that told me over and over every time that I could never succeed in creating something sustainable. So what would I do? I'd quit. I'd move on to the next thing. I just didn't have enough faith in myself to trust the venture long term. Have you found yourself here, having a desire so deep to do something or have something, but then you let that judgmental side of your brain tell you what you can do or what you can have? I think we all have that small voice. Sometimes it quietly whispers, and other times it screams. You aren't good enough. You're certainly not smart enough. No one wants to have what you offer. Why would they? My friends, this list for me personally is so long. How about yours? Do you have that voice inside of you that whispers and screams? I really hope we can talk more about this later, because as women, society has always told us who we should be. It is so easy to get sucked into what others want us to be and put to the back burner our dreams and goals. I would love to have conversations with strong women who've stepped out of that confining place and discovered the joy of being who they really are. And I'm going to share with you, I know some women like that. So I'm so excited to hopefully have them on my podcast one day and let you hear from them. So who am I today? Well, I am a woman, a daughter, a sister, a mother. I'm a wife, a friend, a mentor. I'm also a doggy and cat mom, by the way. I'm a survivor. I am resilient. I am fragile, yet strong. I am brave and at other times incredibly fearful. I'm often insecure, but if I dig deep, I can be confident. Yes, my sweet friends, you can be all of those things rolled into one. I am you. No matter where you are in your space today, you will have a place here. I am hoping that we can navigate all the journeys, all the experience, and all the feels in this space. As I sit here in my home office speaking to you tonight, all the little voices are telling me, Shauna, you can't do this. Look, you've already messed it up like 20 times today. You're a high school dropout, for goodness sakes, with a little formal education. You have no roadmap to where this will go. You've never been trained in public speaking. Friends, I could go on and on. Can any of you relate to these self-deprecating words? I'm sure some of you can, and you probably have your own set. And let me tell you, I feel such a kinship with you. We're going to break down those walls together. We're going to explore sides of ourselves that we either didn't realize existed or that we've kept hidden all these years. You know what? We are amazing humans. We are capable of great things. Each of us has a gift of some kind. Some of you may know what that gift is, and some of you are still trying to find yourself. So, I am looking forward to our time together, and my hope is that we can all walk away from each episode with something of value. Until next time, I hope you live well in your space, my friends.